You know your mind, your drive, what you're capable of. But when you look around, you're just another guy with an ordinary job in an ordinary town. 10 years in, 15 years in, or maybe 20 years in, or even more. It doesn't matter. It feels like your best years already slipped through your fingers. Let me tell you about a man from the Bible who felt exactly that. His name was Moses. Moses had it all. Raised in Pharaoh's palace, trained by the wisest men in Egypt, everyone expected him to rule a nation one day. At 40 years old, he lost control. He killed a man in a moment of blind rage, and he had to run for his life. He didn't run into greatness. He ran into nothing. 40 years old, and his whole future collapsed in a single moment he never took back. For the next 40 years, he herded sheep in the middle of nowhere. No title, no crowd, no one who even remembered his name. Read that again. 40 years old to 80, half a lifetime, gone, swallowed by silence and dust. Here's the thing. Moses wasn't finished. He hadn't even started. At 80 years old, God called him back, not to hide anymore, to lead an entire nation out of slavery. And for the next 40 years, Moses walked with God face to face until the day he died at 120. 40 years building, 40 years in the desert, 40 years living the extraordinary. He didn't know it at the time, but that desert was never a dead end. It was training. Are you 80 already? No? Are you still in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe your 60s? You're not done, not even close. Some men spend their whole life drifting. You were built to be called. This isn't about surviving your story. It's about building on it. You're here because some part of you refuses to believe your best years are behind you. Today, we're covering 4 truths that will change how you see every year you thought you wasted, because those years didn't disappear. They were wiring you for a purpose you haven't stepped into yet. Let's get started. Truth number 1. The years weren't wasted. They were a season. Here's why that matters. Your identity isn't built on what you accomplished last year. It's built on how you see the years you already lived. Get that wrong, and you'll carry a decade like a debt instead of a foundation, and you'll drag that weight into every year that comes after it. Think about it this way. The Bible says there's a time for everything under heaven, a time to plant, a time to wait, a time to harvest. No farmer curses the winter for not producing fruit. He knows winter has its own job to do, even when nothing visible is happening above the soil. The ground is still working. It's just working where nobody can watch. The same applies to you. That decade that felt frozen, that job that never grew, that relationship that took more than it gave, that season wasn't empty. It was doing quiet work underground, work you couldn't see yet, work that doesn't show up until later, sometimes years later, sometimes not until you look back and finally connect the dots. Look, nothing in God's kingdom runs on your timeline. It runs on His. You wanted a harvest at year 3. He was still working on the roots, because a tree with shallow roots falls the first time real wind hits it. Why does this matter so much? Because the moment you call a season wasted, you stop learning from it. You stop asking what it was building in you. You just want it gone, erased, forgotten, written off as a mistake you'd rather not remember. But a kingdom man doesn't waste pain. He minds it. He goes back into the season he wanted to forget and asks what it actually taught him about patience, about himself, about what he's really capable of carrying. Here's the application. Stop asking, why did this take so long? Start asking, what did this season build in me that easy years never could? That single shift in the question changes everything about how you carry your own story from here forward. You weren't behind schedule. You were in a season that had its own purpose, running on a clock you couldn't read at the time. Hold on to that. Number 2, what felt like failure was forging you. Picture a soldier. Nobody becomes battle-ready in the field. They become battle-ready long before the battle. In the mud, underweight, running drills nobody's watching, in the freezing dark when there's no medal waiting at the end of it. The training looks like nothing is happening, but it's exactly where the real work gets done, rep after rep, long before it ever counts for anything visible. The same applies to your life. That failed business, that relationship that fell apart when you thought it was the one. That year, you couldn't get ahead no matter how hard you tried, no matter how many extra hours you put in, or how many sacrifices you made. That wasn't the absence of progress. That was the drill ground. Why? Because character isn't built in comfort. It's built under weight, under pressure, in the moments nobody else was watching and nobody was keeping score. Here's the kicker. Most men want the promotion without the training. They want the calling without the desert season that prepares them to actually carry it once it arrives. But you don't get to skip the forging and still carry the strength of a man who's been forged. Real talk. If you'd gotten everything easy, you wouldn't be the man you are right now. You'd be someone else, softer, untested, unprepared for what's coming next in your life, and probably unaware you were even missing something. The failure wasn't proof you weren't cut out for it. It was proof God was still building the tool before He handed you the job. Every dent in the metal was part of the shape He was after. Nothing wasted on you either. That's not weakness. That's God-given vision, taking its time to become strength you can actually carry, instead of strength that looks good but breaks the first time it's tested. Truth number 3, and this one's harder to hear than the first two, so stay with me. You don't need to forgive time. You need to receive the restoration that's already been offered to you. Here's why this one matters more than the others. You can accept that your years were a season. You can accept that failure forged you, and still walk around every single day carrying guilt for decisions you made. Decisions you've never said out loud to anyone, not even the people closest to you. I've sat with that weight myself. There's a season of my own life I don't talk about much. A handful of years where I made choices I'm not proud of, choices that cost me more than time. For a long time, I told myself I'd made peace with it. I hadn't. I'd just gotten good at not looking at it. Let me walk you through a story Jesus told, because it's the clearest picture of what's actually happening inside you right now. A son went to his father and asked for his inheritance early, basically telling his father he wished he were already dead. He took the money, left home, and burned through everything on a life that led nowhere. No plan, no purpose, just noise and pleasure until the money ran out. Then a famine hit. He had nothing left. He ended up feeding pigs for a living, about as low as a man in that culture could sink. He was starving, humiliated, and completely alone with what he'd done. Here's the part most men skip past. He didn't think his father would welcome him back as a son. He rehearsed a speech. He planned to come back and ask to be treated like a hired servant, not a son, just staff. He'd already sentenced himself before he even got home. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. And the father didn't wait at the door with his arms crossed. He ran. In that culture, an older man running in public was undignified, beneath his position. He didn't care. Before the son could even finish his apology, the father was already calling for a robe, a ring, sandals, a celebration. Full restoration, not probation. Not prove yourself first, then we'll talk. Full sonship, on the spot, before a single thing was earned back. The same applies to you. You've probably been living like that son planned to live. Like you have to earn your way back into your own life before you're allowed to feel whole again. Like the years you regret put you on some kind of probation with God, with your family, with yourself. Like grace is something you qualify for instead of something you were already handed. Why does this matter so much? Because here's the truth most men never say out loud. It's not that you don't believe God forgave you. Deep down, you probably do believe that. The real problem is you haven't let yourself receive it. You've turned forgiveness into a debt you're still quietly paying off, one guilty thought at a time, year after year. That's a conversation that deserves its own video. The difference between knowing you're forgiven and actually living like it. But hold on to that thought for now. Here's the mechanism most men miss. Forgiveness isn't something you generate by feeling sorry enough, long enough. It's not a mood you have to reach. It's something that was already finished, and your job isn't to earn it. Your job is to stop refusing it. Refusing a gift doesn't make you humble. It makes the gift useless, sitting there unopened while you keep carrying what it was meant to replace. There's an old promise about God restoring the years that were eaten away. Years lost to mistakes, to seasons of ruin, years that felt like nothing but loss, not erasing them from your memory, restoring what they were meant to produce in you. That's not a metaphor for something small. That's a direct promise that the years you think were stolen from you can still bear fruit in the years ahead, real fruit, not a consolation prize. Here's the application. Stop auditing your past every time you try to move forward. You don't need one more year of proving you're sorry enough. You don't need a longer sentence than the one you've already served in your own head. You need one decision, today, to stop carrying what's already been paid for. Ask yourself honestly, if God already ran to meet you, why are you still standing at the edge of the property, rehearsing your speech? Think about what that older brother did in the same story. The one who stayed home, did everything right, and got angry that his father threw a party for the son who messed up. He couldn't understand grace either. He wanted his brother on probation too. Don't be the man standing outside his own restoration, arguing that he doesn't deserve it, while the party's already started without him. There's a difference between guilt and conviction, and most men never learn it. Conviction says, that was wrong, make it right, and walk differently now. Guilt says, you'll never really be clean, so don't bother trying. One leads you forward. The other keeps you circling the same 15 years for the rest of your life. A kingdom man learns to tell the difference and refuses to let guilt dress itself up as humility. Here's what receiving it actually looks like in real life. It's not a feeling you wait for. It's a decision you make on a Tuesday, in your truck, alone, before you even feel like it. Deciding that the debt is closed, whether or not you feel forgiven yet. Feelings follow decisions. They rarely lead them. Steward that the same way you'd steward anything else God's handed you. Don't bury it. Don't keep replaying it like it's still due. Put it down and build with both hands free for the first time in years. If this is hitting home right now, if you know exactly what it feels like to still be waiting to forgive yourself for something God let go of a long time ago, drop the word restored in the comments. I want to know you made it this far. You're not the only man watching this carrying that weight tonight. Real talk. A kingdom man doesn't pretend the past didn't happen. He doesn't hide it, and he doesn't parade it either, wearing it like some badge of honesty. He just stops letting it sit in the driver's seat of his life. You are not your worst 15 years. You are not the decision you're still ashamed of. You are not the version of yourself that made that call in the dark. You are a son who's been standing at the edge of the property for way too long, when the robe and the ring were already waiting for you the whole time. That's the truth some men will spend their whole life avoiding. But it's the one truth that actually sets a man free to build something real going forward, instead of just managing his guilt quietly for the rest of his life, one Sunday at a time. But it's the last one that will actually change how you see everything that came before it. And the last one, the one most men completely miss. Truth number 4, your purpose was never running late. It was already complete in you before you ever started counting the years. Here's why this one closes everything we've talked about today. You can accept the season. You can accept the forging. You can even receive the restoration. And still walk around thinking you're building your purpose from scratch at your age, starting way behind everyone else. That's the last lie standing. Think about it like this. Every product that leaves a factory was fully designed and tested before it ever rolled off the line. The engine, the exact purpose of every part, all of it was decided before a single piece was welded together. The product doesn't earn its function over time. It was already built for it. The same applies to you. God didn't send you into the world half-finished, hoping you'd figure out your purpose somewhere around your 40th birthday if you worked hard enough. He equipped you before you took your first breath. The capacity to lead your family, to build something real, to walk in the calling you keep sensing under the surface, that was already installed. Why does this matter so much? Because most men live like their purpose is a finish line somewhere out ahead of them, something they're perpetually behind on, always chasing, never quite catching. That's exhausting, and it's not true. Here's the mechanism most men miss. Purpose doesn't operate like a career. A career can start late. But purpose was never a career. It was a blueprint, and blueprints don't age. The gifting that was in you at 20 is still in you now. It's just been buried under 15 years of noise and comparison. Remember Moses, 80 years old, and God didn't hand him a brand new skill set. He activated what had been sitting dormant the entire time. Everything Moses had learned surviving in the wilderness, every bit of it, was already the exact tool needed for the assignment ahead. God didn't build something new. He deployed what was already there. 40 years of what looked like nothing turned out to be 40 years of exact preparation for the one assignment that mattered most. Here's something most men never notice about that desert. Survival out there runs backward from what feels natural. You don't move at noon. The sun will drain you dry before you make it a mile. You rest in the heat of the day, and you move at night, when the cold could kill you just as fast if you're standing still. Everything in you wants to do the opposite. But the men who survive learn to invert the logic, not fight it. That's exactly what most men do wrong with their own wasted years. They keep running on the logic that got them stuck in the first place. Same habits, same hour of the day they always give in, same pattern they've repeated for 15 years, and wonder why the desert never ends. Here's the truth. If you feel like you've been in the desert too long, that's not proof it's permanent. That's your sign to face it head on and invert the logic. Change the habit you've been protecting. Do the hard thing at the hour you usually don't. Here's the part that should shake you. God's people were supposed to cross that desert in 40 days. It took them 40 years. Not because the distance changed, because it took them that long to get the slave mentality out of their own heads. The fear, the complaining, the refusal to believe they were actually capable of the promise. The moment that mindset finally died, the desert ended fast. The land was never the problem. The mind carried into the land was. That's stewardship at the deepest level. Not just managing money or time, but managing the gifting you were handed before you understood what it was for, and refusing to let an old mindset keep you circling a desert you were always equipped to cross. Here's the application. Stop asking, "Is it too late for me?" Start asking, "What did God already put in me that I've been ignoring because I thought the window closed?" And ask one harder question right behind it. What mindset have I been dragging through this desert that's the actual reason it's taking so long? You don't need a new purpose at your age. You need to stop treating the one you were built with like it expired. It didn't. It's just been waiting on you to stop apologizing for how long it took. This is the truth that carries the most weight of everything we've covered, because it means every single year, the good ones and the ones you'd rather forget were never separate from your purpose. They were the process of it becoming visible. The blueprint was never late. You just needed the years to catch up to what was already true about you. That's what it means to finally stop drifting and start walking as the kingdom man you were built to be. 15 years, 20 years, however many years you've been carrying like a weight instead of a foundation. None of it was wasted. The season had a purpose. The failure was forging you. The guilt you're still carrying was already paid for, whether you've let yourself believe that yet or not. And the gifting you keep waiting to feel ready for, it's been sitting in you the whole time, fully installed, just waiting for you to stop apologizing for how long the desert took. You're not behind. You were never behind. You were being built. Here's what that actually means for you starting today. It means you get to put down the audit you've been running on your own life. It means the years don't need your permission to have counted. They already counted. A kingdom man doesn't spend his life mourning the years he thought he lost. He picks up what those years built in him, and he uses it for his wife, for his kids, for the calling that's been waiting on him the whole time, not somewhere ahead of him, but right where he's standing. That's what it means to finally stop running from your own story and start building with it. By the way, if this meant something to you, hit like and subscribe so the next one finds you too. Until next time.